And welcome back to The Drive with Jackson and McCoy. I'm Matt McCoy. Of course, a big game coming up on Saturday for the Buckeyes at TCU. We've got Bucs line coming up tonight, 6 to 8 at the Buffalo Wild Wings on Bethel Road. Also a busy time for the Blue Jackets. Opening training camp, fitness testing today, on ice tomorrow. First preseason game, already Monday against Buffalo. And we're joined now by the head coach of the Blue Jackets, John Tortorella, fresh off the news of his 2-year contract extension. Coach, first, congratulations on the extension. I was there yesterday. You said that you like this group. You like this team. What specifically do you like about these guys? Is it work ethic, personality, coachability? What kind of things draw you towards this group so much?
Well, a number of things, and all of the above that you just mentioned. I do think the group. I think sometimes in our sports nowadays that there isn't enough personality. I do think we have that on our team. All different types of personalities. I like the youth of the team. One of the most enjoyable parts of coaching for me is teaching, and when we're dealing with such a young group right here, we're deeply involved in that, and I just like being around them. And on a personal, my wife and I just love being in the area here too. So very fortunate to continue being with the group and our management group also to see if we can try to find our way.
Your contract extension comes on the heels of the extensions last week of the front office, John Davidson, Jarmo Kekalainen, Bill Zito. We're seeing something here in Columbus that with the Jackets that in their history we haven't seen, and that's stability, continuity with the front office, the coaching staff, the relationship that you have with the hockey decision makers. What's that relationship like, and how important is that to you that they let you do your job, work with you, and things of that nature?
Right on through. The only person I did know when I was first hired here was John Davidson. And as I've gone through the past 3 years with Billy Zito, Mike Priest, and Jarmo, especially more one-on-one with Jarmo, it's turned into, at least I can speak for myself, a really good thing. I've learned a ton dealing with Jarmo. He's very honest, very straightforward. I think he's one of the best talent evaluators that I have been around, and I hope I've helped him. He has certainly helped me, and I think we have the same type of vision as we move through the process, and it has been a little bit of a process here with such a young team.
Some big decisions for the front office this year. That kind of the elephant in the room as you guys start camp are the situations with Artemi Panarin and Sergei Bobrovsky, both great players in contract years. You're the coach, so I guess the contract situations, I would think, don't change things for you at all. What are your expectations for those two guys heading into this important year for them and for the franchise?
Yeah, it's a really interesting situation where it's been very well chronicled with Brett that he's not sure if he wants to spend the next 7-8 years here in Columbus. We're not sure what Bob's thinking as we go through as they get to free agency. But as far as my situation, it's status quo. I coach them. Obviously, two huge pieces to our team here, and in the way Bob has played over the years, and Brett coming in here last year and being, I think, one of the top players in the National Hockey League. So we go about our business, and quite honestly, I don't think these are business decisions. I think these are kind of personal decisions for these guys as they start thinking about, are they going to have their family, girlfriends, kids, that they want to be here for that amount of years, and all that stuff. I can't get involved in it. I'm going to coach them. I'm going to put them in every spot I possibly can to help this team win a hockey game.
And those two guys have been good responding to you, have they not? I mean, you've enjoyed coaching them through the last few years, right?
Absolutely. Bob is, I marvel at the way he prepares. Certainly the backbone of this team of getting into the playoffs and his regular season play has been outstanding. As far as Brett's concerned, our first question, you talk about personality. This kid has it, and people say, well, how do you feel about his thoughts? Well, maybe not staying here. I'm not mad. I can't be mad, but I'm really disappointed because I really like coaching him, and I think he's so good for our room. Forget about what he does on the ice. I think he brings some personality to our room.
Visiting with John Tortorella, head coach of the Blue Jackets, getting set to start training camp. Hockey seasons are an 82-game, 6-month grind, and then you hope that it's longer, a couple of months with playoff hockey. You got training camp here that's less than a month long. So how important in the scheme of what happens in a whole season are the next, 3-4 weeks of training camp? What do you need to see? What do you want to see coming up over the next 4 weeks before you drop the puck on October 4th?
Yeah, well, just looking at our lineup, we got some questions to be answered as far as some of the youth, some of the kids that may push for a spot. We got question marks as far as what Brandon Dubinsky is going to be this year, what Alex Wenberg is going to be this year, as far as up the middle of the ice, and you go right through. Training camp to me is you get a real good snapshot of some of the youth that may not be with your team right away, and you got to figure out where you're going to put them to help them develop along the way before they get to the National Hockey League. And on the other end is looking at really the foundation of your team and the players that are going to be in your lineup, but where do they fit in the lineup? And overall, for me, when you enter camp, is what they did during the summer as far as conditioning. Because if you use camp to get in shape, you're behind the eight ball. You need to be in top shape when you come to camp.
You mentioned Doobie there, and you've been with Brandon for a long time, going back to New York. And obviously last year wasn't the kind of year that anybody wanted from him, including himself. Expectations for him this year. I mean, this could be a great story written if it's that kind of bounce-back year. What would a Brandon Dubinsky playing at the level Brandon Dubinsky can play mean to this team?
Yeah, it's really a really big question mark, but could also be, if that question is answered properly, it could be a huge boost to this team. It's very well talked about that the middle of our ice is part of our lineup that we need to shore up. You get that 18, 19-year-old kid, Dubois, coming in last year and gives us a great push up the middle. Wenberg had an off year. I think he's going to be better. This is a huge year for Doobie, in where I've known him since he was a kid. I just know how he feels right now. I think his will and I think his determination is going to come to the forefront here. Now, listen, I played him 3 or 4 minutes during the playoff games. I didn't feel comfortable putting on the ice, and I think he is a little bit embarrassed about what happened last year. Knowing him, I expect a great answer. And if we get a great answer from him, that solidifies the gut of our ice. With him, Wenberg, and Dubois, with this guy, Riley Nash, that we signed in free agency, it could really help us up the middle.
Visiting with John Tortorella, head coach of the Blue Jackets, getting set to start training camp. I got to ask you, how do you take, this franchise has never had consecutive seasons making the playoffs. They did that. Having said that, they've ended in first-round exits. So how, as you look at the development and this franchise coming along and becoming a legitimate, stabilized NHL franchise and potentially a force, how do you weigh, hey, we're making progress versus it's not good enough as you go into this season?
Yeah, and the word you use is development, and we are still in the process of it. The thing, I think this is a really big year for the organization because I think our guys feel they can win. I think when I came here, it was like, I hope we win. It was kind of you're almost playing not to lose. And I think we have the right type of arrogance where we know we can win in this league, but we haven't done anything in the playoffs. And first things first, it's been great. We've made it the last 2 years. It's hard to get in. It is really hard to get in. That is our number one goal first, is to go about our business, and I think we need to take it one day at a time to try to get back into the hunt. Then, if we have that opportunity, then that's the next stage of our development, is can we handle the momentum swings, the different things that happen in playoffs? Are we going to grow up mentally and have that mental toughness to find our way? And you look at last year's Stanley Cup winner. Washington had multiple failures in the playoffs. Now they have found a way. They found that ingredient in how to play in the playoffs, and they win the Stanley Cup. We're a little bit there. I think we're finding a way to get in, but we really have no clue how to win there yet, and I think that's our next stage of development.
How difficult is it in the division that you play? I mean,
yeah,
it is loaded. You can be playing great hockey, and if you're playing division games, be losing games. How much of a grind does that make it, just the situation you're in, the division you're in?
Yeah, it's a very tough division. I'm really not sure if there's a tougher one. I think there may be arguments along the way in the league. But the way I look at this, we're in this division. Let's dive in. I think if you accept that and understand the competition within our division, it's going to make you a better team come playoff time. So there's some things you can't control. and so you need to let it go. There are enough things that we have to worry about than worrying about things that we can't control. So I'm really focusing on taking one day at a time, making sure that we don't have the attitude of making the playoffs is okay and that's good for us. We have to have a different mindset of also of getting in, but also trying to do something within the playoffs. And that can't be, you can't forecast that. You got to take it one day at a time and try to find your way.
Last thing for John Tortorella here, and you mentioned it at the beginning of our interview here, and you mentioned it yesterday, that with the contract extension on a personal level, you and your wife, your family love it here. You know, it's been 3 years in Columbus. What draws you to this city? What did you find out about this city that you enjoy, and why it's a place that you like to be?
Yeah, well, first off, it's the people. I mean, we have been we have been welcomed in here by some really nice people in our relationships as we've been here. We live out in Sunbury, and we have just fallen in love with the area out here. As far as it's so underrated, and this is where, you know, you would talk about a couple of players. You talk about Brett. He's not sure if he wants to be here. And that's what bothers me a little bit is you have to try it on for a little bit, understand really what this area is about, and it'll answer the question. And so we just enjoy the people, how they've treated us. We're involved with the community in a lot of different ways, and we just make more and more friends out here and love being here.
Well, Coach, we're glad you're here, and good luck this season. We'll be watching and appreciate you taking a few minutes for us.
My pleasure.
Well, that's the winningest coach in Blue Jackets history, John Tortorella, as the Jackets start training camp. First preseason game is Monday already against Buffalo. When we come back, zone read for you. It includes some bad news for a Buckeye NFL star. It's The Drive with Jackson and McCoy, back after this on Sports Radio 105.7 The Zone.